The Great Depression was a terrible thing caused by overspending and overproduction. In 1929, the stock market crashed, causing much money loss in the US and other places. During the Great Depression, many people lost their jobs and their life savings. The Great Depression was ended near the late 1930s and early 1940s by FDR's help.
The stock market crash marked the end of 6 years of prosperity for most the American economy. The crash happened on October 24th, or known as Black Tuesday. By October 29th, stock prices plummeted and banks began calling in loans. An estimated $30 billion in stock values will have vanished by mid-November. By March 1930, more than 3.2 million people are unemployed, up from 1.5 million before the October 1920 crash. New York Bank of the United States collapses. The bank had over 2 million in deposits, making it the largest single bank failure in the nation's history. Congress establishes the RFC, or the Reconstruction Finance Corporation. The RFC is allowed to lend $2 billion to banks, insurance companies, building and loan associations, agricultural credit organizations, and railroads. Determined to collect their bonus pay for service, 15,000 to 25,000 World War I veterans gathered near the White House and Capitol in Washington, D.C. The Reconstruction Finance Corporation is authorized to lend needy states sums from the National Treasury. The money is to target relief and public works projects. FDR is elected president in a landslide over President Hoover. Roosevelt receives 22.8 million popular votes to Hoover's 15.75 million.
In March 1933, FDR announces a 4-day bank holiday to begin on Monday, March 6th. During that time, FDR promises Congress will work on coming up with a plan to save the failing bank industry. By March 9th, Congress passes the Emergency Banking Act of 1933. By month's end, 3/4 of the nation's closed banks will be back in business. In April 1933, the Civilian Conservation Corps is established. This program was designed as a relief and unemployment program for young men between the ages of 17 and 27. In May, the Federal Emergency Relief Administration is created by Congress. President Franklin Roosevelt appoints Harry L. Hopkins as the chief administrator. By the end of his first day on the job, Hopkins has issued grants totaling more than $5 million. A couple months after, the National Industrial Recovery Act is introduced to Congress. Under Title I of the Act, the National Recovery Administration is designated to maintain some form of price and wage controls. During the Great Depression, many people had to live in places called Hoovervilles, which are just neighborhoods of scrap houses put together. These events led to more drastic programs that had to be made by President FDR.
In June 1935, the National Youth Administration is set up to address the needs of young men and women who are not allowed in the CCC. The out-of-school program sets young people up with various jobs ranging from house painting to cleaning local parks, and eventually comes to include vocational training. A month later, FDR signs the Wagner National Labor Relations Act. The goal of the act is to validate union authority and supervise union elections. In November 1936, defeating Kansas Governor Alfred M. Landon, FDR is elected to his second term as president, winning every state in the Union except Maine and Vermont. In March the next year, the slow economic recovery made possibly by a New Deal program suffers a setback as unemployment rises. FDR's detractor call it is the start of the Roosevelt recession. In April of 1938, FDR asked Congress to authorize $3.75 billion in federal spending to stimulate the sagging economy. In the November 1940 election, Franklin Roosevelt is elected to an unprecedented third term as president, defeating Wendell Willkie. FDR's victory is seen as proof of the nation's support of his war policies.
Overall, the Great Depression was an awful thing that left many people without jobs and without money. But with FDR's help, the American economy came back on its feet.